Hello everyone and welcome to today's My Cames Recruitment Show, where we are talking about running a successful virtual rec firm. And we've got a very special guest today who's going to talk to us about how he runs his firm from Spain and all of the things that has made him so successful. Aren't we, Michael?
We certainly are, yes. Charles Magill. I call him Charles. Everyone calls him Charlie, because if you try and look him up on LinkedIn, there's another Charlie Magill and it's not him. So he's Charles Magill on LinkedIn. Yes, we are. I've known Charlie. We were just trying to work it out, probably 10, 12 years. He was a client for about 2.5 to 3 years, I think, as we helped him kind of shape his early business. But what I really like about him and what I wanted him to come onto the show for was that I think he's cracked the formula. It's not just about virtual teams, right? It's not about that, although that's what he is, and we're going to talk about that today because I think that's increasingly attractive to people. But he's actually cracked the recruitment formula, and he's built a very successful business with 0 employees, right? And he lives in Spain, strangely enough. So I wanted him to come on the show because he's extremely good at running his virtual team. He's very good when it comes to BD and is exceptionally good at delivery. And I wanted him to talk about all of those things because I think they're part of the formula, right? So I think it's an important part of it. So let's bring him in, shall we?
Without further ado. Hello, Charlie. Are your ears burning?
Hello. Yeah, indeed. Hello, Kirsty. Hello, Mike. You okay?
Yeah,
Charlie,
we're good.
Very good. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So Charlie, not keep saying Charles. Charlie. I've only known you for maybe 10 years or something. Charlie is the MD and the founder of Adelstrop, a search firm just focused on professional services firms in the UK, and he's very good at it. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Charlie?
I don't think so, Mike. That sums it up very neatly and nicely.
Okay. Right. So, okay. Can I open with your story? Because I think it's a really interesting story. You know, from when you started out in recruitment to how you live in Spain and have got 0 employees. I think there's an interesting story. Spend a few minutes on that if we can for people to give us some context to what we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I started in recruitment 23 years ago, classically at the bottom of the pile as a resourcer with a business that was opening an office in Birmingham city centre, and then worked my way up through the ranks, initially in industry and commerce recruitment, but then shifted quite quickly into professional services, and then ran a number of teams before then moving to another business to help set that up, on a national basis. Spent 4 or 5 years there before then joining Adelstrop Consulting with the time with Tim Bates, who was my co-director. And we built Adelstrop at the time with employees to now me now solely running it, as you mentioned, from Spain with a virtual team.
So just a couple of questions there, really. Spain. So yes. Just decided one day, tell you what, I'll just move from Spain and live there and work in the UK. Was that it, or?
Well, at the time, my wife had a number of friends who were commuting around the world, and I was traveling a lot in the UK from where we lived. So she thought I could reduce my travel time by commuting to Spain rather than sitting in a car.
Makes sense.
So relocated, horses, kids, 3 kids, and the wife to Spain, and started commuting from Spain to the UK, originally on a weekly basis.
Well, how often do you spend the UK and Spain now, roughly? How to settle down a little bit?
Now, of course, it's settled down, but I probably spend around 2 weeks in total in the UK, on and off through coming back for client meetings.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about this later. You could very happily operate your entire business using video calls from Spain, could you not? But you choose to get on a flight and fly to England and see people. That's correct, isn't it?
I do, yes, yeah. I choose to come back. I mean, I love the interaction with people face to face. But throughout, of course, the COVID periods and post that, I could easily run it virtually, continually, all the time from Spain if I wanted to.
And I think we're going to dig into that a little later. But I think that that's part of your success, actually. And in this world, I'm going to talk about AI a little bit.
Yep.
And how not to use it, probably. But I think that you are a relationship guy. And that's a key element of what your success has been, I think. And that proves, in your ability to, like say, operate from Spain very happily. You choose not to. You choose to take the expense and disruption and turn up in England. Is it true occasionally you play golf with people as well while you're here?
It is, yes, Mike. That's true. I played a couple of times with yourself and managed to get revenge on the last game of golf. So, yes, there's the odd game of golf when I come back to the UK.
You win some, you lose some. We'll get you next time. Okay, let's start, if we can, with what I think is probably the most important part of a success formula, if there is such a thing in recruitment for everybody, and that is delivery. So let me be very clear what I mean by delivery. It's taking down the vacancy, understanding the client. It's being able to seek out good-looking matches, properly qualify them, and then make it very easy for the clients to go through the process of hiring. That is delivery. I think in the past, in the golden era of recruitment from, say, 2010, 2023 or something, I think you could be average at that and make a living. But now you can't. You've got to be very good at it. And you are very good at it. And I know that for a fact because I know some of your clients. So I'm not just saying that. You know that I know that that's the case. So why are you so good at delivery, Charles?
I think it comes back to originally when I first started in recruitment that I wanted to try and meet as many people as possible within the respective market that I operate within. I think in recruitment terms, you need to offer career advice. So I've always focused on individuals that may not necessarily be looking to make a move and build relationships with them over coffees, lunches, dinners, see them at respective networking events. And get to know people, just not once, but 20, 30 times, Mike. Of course, you can't do that for everyone, but within certain sectors, markets, and regions, you can become deeply ingrained in a sector and a niche and specialize within that niche.
Can I take down? I know there's other things as well, but there'll be too much for me, my little brain, to handle. I just want to unpack a few things that you said there. First of all, your fees are not tiny. You don't fish around at the bottom of the market. You're at the medium to the top of the market, which means that you've got time to do these things because the money that you make pays for you to do that. And I just wanted to put this out there to people. If you're watching this and thinking, I could never afford that, then you're probably recruiting the wrong level. You need to move up, and I think it'll become much more competitive at the lower levels. Go up as much as you can. You might not reach the same kind of role level that Charlie has, but nonetheless, it's going up. The other thing I wanted to ask you about as well, in the things you just said there, is this separation. It's non-transactional in the sense that you're talking to people you can't make money out of this month or next, whether that's a client or a candidate. You've separated out the transaction, which is going to happen at some point in the future, with the activity that makes the transaction easier. Could you talk about that for us for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I've seen myself as a businessman first, career advisor second, and recruitment consultant third. So, of course, in recruitment, you tend to engage with lots of people quite frequently and regularly. So if you can help somebody through a non-financial gain, whether that be career advice, putting them in touch with somebody that's going to help their respective career, you start to form that relationship. And again, classically, you want to build that talent pool of people that, you may obviously need or require them in the future, or they may not need you at the current stage, but as they may not get that promotion or that pay rise 2-3 years down the line, they generally come back full circle because you've built a deeply ingrained relationship with them, Mike, and they trust you and they've built you that trust over a long period of time.
But it's a relationship. I mean, a relationship is made up of trust, affinity, and confidence. That you get on with people, you trust them, you've got that rapport with them, whether it's a friend or someone in business, and you build that layer by layer, don't you? And I see that because I know we've met when you were in town, and you'll say, I'm in town, you're free, and if I'm in town, we'll have a coffee. And I get the impression, you know, you're spending a week, I'm sure it's not like this really, but a week having coffees and lunches with people, you know.
I am. I'm probably some coffee shops' best customers in some instances in some cities. So
somebody you're not 20 stone is all I can say. I hate you already. But this concept though of getting to know people, again, you've got to be niche. You can't do that for everybody. You can only build talent pools if you're niche, and your space is very much. Do you just want to share very quickly the kind of roles that you would work on so that can position for people what you do?
Yeah, I mean, national head of corporate finance, national head of, you know, a professional services business, through to, you know, a senior partner in you know, a small boutique firm, a whole range of different levels. But generally, we're focusing more on the kind of director, partner, or an equity partner, or a national head role across the UK for our client base. And
having made that decision means that you do have then the bandwidth, because you're making the money, to be able to build the network that you have, right?
Yes.
Then, I want to come back to something you said off air with me when we were talking about this, because I think this is really important. You said to me, I still get this paraphrases wrong. You said, I often represent the company or the firm better than people in the firm can represent their firm, or something like that. Could you expand upon that for us a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, some of my clients have said that, I suppose, my deeply ingrained knowledge of some of my clients that I've assisted for nearly 17 years, Mike, that I sell the firm better than some of their internal recruitment teams. And because I've consistently worked for some of these firms and these businesses for such a long period of time, I can sell it better. I've got more knowledge, I've got more history, I've got more tangible knowledge that when I go and present a candidate or go and talk to a candidate, I can talk exceptionally credibly. And in some cases, some of my clients that are better than some of them in terms of the story and the background and the firm and its trajectory, which, you know, is a benefit to me.
I'd like to dig into this a little bit more, actually, if I can, in a second. But we did some research on this, which we've got swilling around somewhere if anyone wants to see it. And I can't remember the exact figure. Something like 76% of people, candidates, were as interested or more interested in the organization they were expected to join as they were the role that they were expected.
Spot on, Mike. Absolutely spot on. It's what I say to quite a lot of my kind of new clients who are struggling to recruit. Actually, what's more important is to be able to sell and have the knowledge of the firm or the company first, and then the role second. It's bringing to life the story of the company, the firm, and its trajectory and its DNA and its history, and then it's focusing on the role. So you're spot on, Mike. Absolutely spot on.
Because I read as well, this was part of the research that we were doing. So this wasn't original, this was curated research, this little bit I'm about to say now.
I recall it.
But someone said that that people will take an average role at a great company.
Correct.
But few people will take a great role at an average company, you know, if they have a choice, because the idea is if you get a great company, you can work the role, you can work into other roles. But if you're in a dead end company, it's not going to go well for you, even if the role sounds great. And I just feel, in terms of your knowledge of perhaps what your competitors do, I don't want to name anyone or anything like that, but do you feel that they perhaps don't get that they just lead on the role more than they do on the actual organization, the firm that they're expected to join?
I mean, I would argue a lot of people in my industry that I suppose are external, supplying candidates at any level into businesses focus too heavily on the role first and not the company or the firm or the organization that they're representing. They don't have enough broad knowledge of actually the organization as a whole and how it operates, you know, inside out, back to front. So I mean, I completely agree with you.
I think as well on this, just to dig just a little bit deeper. I know we need to move on then, but this, if you're building talent teams, if you're building a team of people who aren't ready to go, we call them passive but open. So they're not really looking, but you know what? If you present a great company in a great role, yeah, you could flip them. They could go, right?
Correct.
It's crucial to lead on the company first. And funnily enough, when I used to recruit for my own companies back in the day, that's what I always did. I talked about us, what we were doing, what we believed in, the plans that we had, the people that we employed, how we were structured. it was never about the role, because I used to practice refrigerator recruitment. So I'd see people well before I needed them, put them in the fridge, open the door and take them out when they were ready. And it was always the thing that excited them. I noticed it was always the firm and what the firm was doing. And I don't think that's changed. In fact, if anything, with millennials and Gen Zs now, the way in which they see the world, I think it's even more important. Now, I want to drill onto this, just one last thing, and then we will move on, Kirsty. What kind of information would you gather about a firm? If you were doing it, you just said to me earlier, and we're going to talk about this in BD. So you just said you were introduced to someone recently. A new firm. What kind of information would you get from that firm before you went out and started to target candidates for a role they gave you?
I would want to understand, its story, its history, its heritage, where it's come from, the type of talent and people they've recruited individuals from, individuals that have maybe come and gone and why they have gone, if they have any of that information and data available to me. I would want to meet the senior leadership team of a new firm and get them round a table to get everyone's opinion and views. And then I'd really want to understand the trajectory, the strategy, the plans around why they're looking to recruit these types of individuals, why these roles have come up, and what their, I suppose, bigger picture plan is in terms of offices, growth, new locations, new service lines, and how that really strategically builds into the bigger picture when recruiting senior level talent.
Because most people are ambitious to a lesser or greater extent. And part of that ambition is, where can I go in this firm? Where I might not be picking my gold watch up from this firm when I was going to say 65. I meant 78, but whatever. I won't be picking the gold watch up, right? But I want to know where I can go if I make this commitment. And I think it's the recruiter's job to furnish that information, because that's what draws people in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, hugely. I think individuals want to get a feel of the breadth and the depth of career that they can have. And if they're ambitious and they want to succeed to the very top, how it's possible to potentially do that if they perform. I think also what is important is transparency then around earning capabilities.
Yeah.
And being able to show and demonstrate throughout the process of others that have maybe succeeded on a confidential basis, on a no names basis, of how those individuals have maybe had step changes in their total earnings as they've increased throughout the ranks.
So could you broaden that to say not just earnings, but to say their career development, how they were promoted and moved forward? Could you kind of bring out some case study on that, perhaps?
Yeah. So again, with clients and working very strategically with them, demonstrating and giving proper live examples or undertaking case studies of partners that have hired or have come up internally through the ranks, of the timelines that they've made. I suppose that next promotion to that next senior role, maybe moving from partner to equity partner, trying to give some tangible information, some data that you can present back to a new candidate that ultimately is looking to join that business or firm and organization.
I think that's something that's missing a lot, really. I think people are transactional, they make the deal and move on. And yet there's an awful lot of really good news stories that they could use to leverage future people into that business. But okay, I know it's time to move on, but before I do, just very quickly say, if you've got questions for Charlie, please pop them into the comments. Yes. And just so as you know, because someone's just said good afternoon from Sierra Leone, could you just say where you're listening or watching from? Just pop that in. It doesn't have to be the country. If you're in England, you could say the town you're in. That would be very useful for us.
It's always nice to hear. It's always nice to hear. But like you say, Mike, we do have to move on, because we are going to talk about how Charlie kind of runs this virtually, and we are also going to talk about BD, because I know BD in this world where you do it virtually is slightly different. But before then, Mike, it is time for our sponsored message, and our sponsors it's still us.
Yeah, it's me, right? So we're going to be running a workshop, and the reason we're running this workshop is that, echoing what Charlie said, relationships are going to become more important. As AI commoditizes huge swathes of the industry, the people that will stand out will be the people that build and leverage strong relationships. But The big obstacle to that is that first conversation. How do you get to speak to a decision maker who you feel strongly that you could help? You feel strongly that you could work well with them if you can't even get to talk to them because they don't think that they need you or that you can't reach them or whatever. So we're running a workshop on how to start a conversation with a high value but well protected decision maker, right? That's the point of it. Now, give us some of the details with that. It's on the 2nd of December. We're going to take it from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. because we know that there are some Americans already booked on it. So for them on the East Coast, that's like midday or something. It's only 8 attendees. This is a workshop. So this isn't like a webinar where we can have tens or hundreds of people. This is 8 people because it's a workshop. It'll be in a Zoom meeting where we all can see each other, and we'll be working through different things to make this a very practical way to start conversations with people. So it is going to be first come, first served, obviously. We're not releasing registration yet. Okay, so we're not actually releasing it until Friday. However, when we do release it, it is free. So it's free of charge. And it's going to be first come, first served. So if you'd like to be kept informed of this and you'd like to know a little bit more perhaps about what's on it, if you just put the word workshop in the comments, I will send you an email with some details of the actual agenda that we'll be covering and so on. And then if you're interested, you can be notified on Friday when we release it, and you can register if you'd want to. If you're listening to this on our podcast or you're watching this later on YouTube or on LinkedIn, then if you'd like to be considered, just email workshop to mike@flair.co.uk. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, at Flair, Flair.co.uk. Just email workshop to us and we will send you the details and you can take it from there. So, okay, Kirsty, that's a word from our sponsor.
It is. I so enjoy that. Okay, Charlie. So, why now want to talk about kind of the virtual team? Because we know so many people who it works really, really well for. And I think when it works well, it works spectacularly. But I also know a lot of people who perhaps tried a virtual team and it hasn't worked out. Maybe that's because of the people they used or the processes that they had, and they've kind of backed off and their fingers are burnt a little bit. So can we talk about how you kind of created the team, how it grew, and sort of any lessons that you've learned from it?
Yeah, no problem at all. So
can I just ask as well? Can I prefix that, Charlie? Can I prefix that?
Yeah.
When I worked with you, because we worked together about 2.5 years, 3 years, right? But that was a real team. I think you got up to 5 or 6 people. I can't remember the exact number now. Whatever, it was a team. You employed them, but then you took the decision to go virtual. Why?
I mean, it was part of the discussions and conversations that we were having, Mike, in terms of the transition of the market as a whole, and actually what you can achieve with a team that is sat in front of you versus a virtual team. Of course, my personal circumstances of relocating to Spain had a bit of an impact, but separate to that, I still feel that if I was still based in the UK, it would be the best decision. In terms of, I suppose, that virtual team, it's about finding individuals that have real strength and depth around skills that, I as an individual don't have, whether that be admin, whether that be research, whether that be, the database, whether that be finance. Of course, AI is coming more into the recruitment sector. So again, I have somebody that focuses on that for me. It's about, I suppose, the ability to look at a broader, wider talent, select those individuals that I feel that if they were in my business day to day, then I would hire them. And they would be part of my team sat around a table. But of course, on this occasion, they're sat virtually. I still engage with those individuals regularly. I would still have wanted to recruit those individuals into my business if I was recruiting them on a permanent basis. But of course, they're just set up in a different setup and structure. And one of the things that really struck me very strongly, Mike, was your point in terms of recruitment. You get peaks and troughs, and that a virtual team allows you to really accelerate, I suppose, the hours, the time you can buy based on the performance of the business and how successful you are. And that really struck a chord with me.
I want to unpack this a little bit,
Yeah.
Because again, I think people may not be committed to a virtual team, but when they understand how you did it and some of the benefits and also some of the challenges that you faced as well, of course, I think perhaps that may give them some food for thought. So the first thing is, could you tell us kind of not the names of people, obviously, but the roles that you employ? Yeah, let's put it that way. Kind of people that you've got in the team.
Yeah, I've got an individual that focuses on online marketing. So that individual focuses on keeping my website up to date, keeping my activity on my LinkedIn in terms of blogs and articles. We will get together frequently and discuss, topics, and he will then, post them on my behalf. He will help me write them on my behalf. He'll do some of the legwork, along with ensuring, I suppose, the visibility of my personal brand and the company brand is very apparent on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. So that is one individual that I hire. Secondly, have someone that's more of a, I suppose, a secretary, PA, office manager type role, who also dovetails into being a resourcer as well for me, where she will organize my diary, will liaise with some of my clients as well in terms of sending CVs on my behalf, will organize my bookings in terms of calls and candidates and clients, and running, I suppose, the day-to-day operations of the business, organizing team meetings, anything else that a kind of PA office manager would organize. And then I have a number of researchers that are proactively either putting mapping documents together on retained assignments where we are paid up front to map out markets completely. And I have one or two individuals that have a real strength. One in particular has a real strength in kind of mapping and data and information, with then two others that are proactively sourcing and finding talent through predominantly LinkedIn and headhunting over the phone around projects that we need to fill.
So if I'm just replaying that, you've got a marketing guy.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they're male or female, but you've got a marketing person. You've got a research person. It's basically seek and match. They don't necessarily ring people up. And then you've got someone that does hit the phones for you as well, plus like a back at base central figure to hold the whole thing together. Is that pretty much where we're at? Okay.
Yeah, and then I've got somebody on the finance side. So I outsource all my finance, management accounts, all my invoicing to an individual.
Okay, I've got two questions on that, but before I ask those two questions, which I think people are going to know the answers to, but in terms of the team that you have, where did you find them? I mean, where did you find them? Because I know some of these people and they're very good, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're exceptional. As I said to you, if I was, I suppose, sat in an office, I'd want them as permanent employees. I mean, I had one through, I think it was a referral, long time ago. I had somebody else that, funny enough, is a client's wife, but also been a personal friend, who coming back from maternity leave wanted a different type of role compared to where they were before. Another individual I've been working since, 23 years. I've known that other individual. It's a long time. Somebody else I've known for 20 years on the finance side. And
it's
then,
really that network coming into play.
Yeah, back to network. And then the other person that I've got, or the researcher, was recommended to me.
Network, it's network. Strength of the network. Someone once said that all the money you need, it's Dan Sullivan actually, all the money you need are in the pockets of the people you know and the pockets of the people they know. And I think the same actually applies to people. All the people you need are in
Mike, I'm conscious of time, so do you want to ask Charlie your questions?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. See, you got me going networking. Okay. Right. So some of the challenges with managing such a team, there you are stuck in Spain, you spend a lot of time talking to clients and candidates and coming traveling and various things, doesn't leave a lot of time for management. So how do you manage that team, or who manages that team if it's not you?
We have regular meetings and interactions. I mean, I'm talking to these individuals frequently. I suppose over a period of time, we've got better of how we've interacted with each other. And when I'm back in the UK, I do meet up with these individuals for kind of coffees and lunches, and take them out to also meet face to face with them, Mike, which is of course really important. I suppose we continue to kind of evolve and structure the day-to-day workings, but I suppose empower them that if they were in my business, that they would actually, I suppose, operate like they were an employee of mine.
Do you have like KPIs or diagnostics of any sort?
I don't have any KPIs for them, no.
Yeah, but they are properly empowered. They know exactly what their job is, so there's absolute clarity on what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose the parameters of what they need to do and what their focus is really drilled down completely for every single individual.
Good, love it. Right, okay then, Kirsty. You see, finished.
I know. So the only final question I've got.
No, I haven't. I have to just ask a question. What are the some of the problems or challenges that you've encountered? Yeah, sorry about that.
I think the problems and challenges is try and find, I suppose, like-minded individuals. I suppose the pressure comes on the more you can deliver. Those individuals, of course, do have a saturation point. So the challenges is, I suppose, trying to find other individuals that I can hire or bring on to match the standards that we've got at the moment. Is probably one of the biggest challenges.
Then, by the sound of it, over to your network.
Yes, over to the network.
Okay.
I like that. Okay, so I think now I want to move on to BD, Charlie, because it sounds very much like you're doing very well, and I know for a lot of people it's a tricky market. It's a very different market than it was a couple of years ago. I also know that if you're virtual, if you're running all around the country, especially if you're based even part-time in another country, it can be very, very difficult. And I know that we've sort of previously mentioned that a lot of things come from your network. You put a lot of time and effort into people before you need them, as it were. But can we talk about kind of the center of what you would class as your BD?
I mean, I suppose I'm predominantly done a lot of business development historically face-to-face many years ago, and that network is then built up to a huge number of connections that I know face-to-face, and I properly know these individuals. So it's one of the power of the networks in terms of them BD is that I do get a lot of individuals that come to me via other people. So delivering for other clients or other people, then pass on my name and number to other organizations or businesses. So back to the power of your network, but a lot of my networking is done through existing relationships and contacts and connections of people that will put me in touch with other organizations or businesses.
Yeah.
So can I just stop you right there, because I think you do yourself a disservice in a sense, because I mean, I know lots of people that go and meet people and talk to people and, go for drinks with people and various things, but you've taken your network to another level, right? And I think you once told me that you also like to target candidates who could potentially one day be clients. I remember you saying that to me, because that makes perfect sense, because every call could be one of two things, couldn't it then? It's like, well, I've got a great job. Well, you don't want that. Well, let's talk about what I do. So I'm sure you don't do it quite like that, but I think there is a recognition, it seems to me, that you know who you're dealing with, you know their strengths, you know their benefits of those people, but then you give so much more than you take. That's the thing that strikes me. And your interaction levels, because they say you need 26 non-operational interactions a year to keep a relationship strong, right, on average. That can be anything from telephone calls, visits, golf, social media, whatever, right? But you just slay that. I mean, you probably do that in a week, I would imagine, your ability to do that. So if you're going to wrap up the secret to building a strong network, how would you do that? What would you do on that front?
In building a strong network, I think it comes back to that niche point, Mike. You've got to be really targeted around a particular area and set yourself an objective even to target as many people within that sector, within that industry, within that geography and get to know everyone within it, and then start to build a very sophisticated engagement strategy with these people on a whole host of different levels.
But at the heart of this, though, has to be your quality of delivery.
Yeah.
You know, if you're friendly with someone and they like you and like to go for drinks or have coffees, that's great. But if deep down they know you're rubbish at delivery, they're not going to recommend you to anybody. They'll say they will, and you get a nice NPS score, brilliant, but they won't do that because you let them down. So at the very heart of it has to be the quality of your delivery, surely.
Yeah, I suppose being open and honest with people, Mike. I mean, one of the most powerful things, from my side is that I'll call somebody. If I call somebody, I've got something for them that is relevant, whether they're a client or a candidate. Now, one of the things that is still struck with me that doesn't happen, I don't think, that often within the industry, is that actually sometimes I pull my candidates from processes.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel that they are either up for that move, or they're interested in that opportunity, or that they're going to represent me as well as they should do within that particular firm and operation. It works the other way around as well, is that I want to find that dream job for that candidate. If I can't find them that dream job, then I won't call them about jobs that are irrelevant.
That's interesting. I mean, someone once said to me, it may even have been you, I don't know. Someone once said to me, what is the difference between search and recruitment? A search consultant is constantly looking for reasons not to submit a candidate. And if they don't find any, they'll submit it. Whereas a standard recruiter is just looking for a justification to submit. So if there's enough reason, they'll submit them. And I think you've just summed that up personally. One thing that doesn't sit well with you, they're out. They're not in the process anymore, leaving room for somebody else. I think that's the crucial part of delivery success. But you were saying to me earlier off air that that you get introductions from people that you've not know tremendously well into people that you don't know at all, and that's really how most of your business comes from. Would you say 100% of your new business comes from the network, or do you get it from marketing or something?
I mean, I would say there's three things. One is the network. Two is from existing clients that may refer me to some other individuals that they know that they're struggling to recruit similar types of roles, bizarrely, and they will put me in touch with what may seem as a direct competitor after filling successful assignments over multiple times. And then thirdly, I would argue that the power of LinkedIn and blogs and career content has also been an avenue where, if you personally start to talk enough around the market, people will, I suppose, pick up on that. And they will then...
don't you? That only works because you're niche. You operate space.
Correct.
All the content. I've seen your posts, they're very good. All your content and your blogs and your articles and the things that you run are relate to that space.
Correct.
That's really important, isn't it, when you produce content?
Yeah, so it's targeted content, and it's relevant, and it's up to date, and it's live. And I've got an insight, of course, just through the power of the network and the people I'm talking to regularly, that is very tangible. And I suppose people read, listen, then react to it. So I do get opportunities and intros, both clients and candidates, through, I suppose, an online presence.
Yeah. I mean, just give us a clue as to what kind of content you would put out there then online.
My content is mainly around what is actually happening in the broader space. So, this comes back to our earlier conversations and points in terms of it's talking about what's happening in the overall professional services sector, around the nuances around the regulator having an impact, mergers or takeovers happening, private equity having an influence, technology having an influence on the sector, and then boiling that down to what that actually has in terms of an impact around an individual's career, whether that's positive or negative, and making it relevant to the sectors and the markets and the regions that we operate in across the UK.
Yeah, I know I've seen some of your stuff, and I can imagine that would be quite attractive to people, and all of it, of course, supports the notion that you're the player in the game. If you're the go-to guy for these kind of people in this space, because that's all you write about and talk about. So makes perfect sense to me.
Unfortunately, I do have to interrupt because we are coming towards the end of the show, but I do want to say this before I kind of start to close up, Charlie. We often really encourage people to think of themselves as business owners who do recruitment, not recruiters who own a business. And I think you encapsulate that because you really take long-term decisions. You invest in people who maybe can't give you something right now, but you see that they might in the future. You invest in understanding about the business, about whether this person is really right. And I think that is the mentality that people really need to emulate, is this business owner first, long-term decisions. I'm not looking at immediate gain, whether it be immediate work or whatever it might be. You think long-term. And I think that kind of summarizes all the things that you've spoken about around network, around the online team, all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much. So in a second, I am coming to you for your top tip about this. But before then, I just want to quickly advertise our next show, which, Mike, is about building strong business relationships. And it's just
I think we have to lean into relationship building a lot more now. Just listening to Charlie, I think if you needed confirmation that was the case, there he is sitting on the screen. I think that we've got into the habit, because things have been so busy and all the rest of it, have perhaps been overly transactional. And I get that, I understand that, but you've got to take time out to build relationships. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at 5 tips, different techniques or tools, if you will, that will help you boost your relationship building skills. And they're not fancy. They're, you don't need loads of experience and you don't need tons of skills to do this. Someone who's just started out in the industry can learn them and use them straight out of the box. And we're going to lean more and more into relationship building, because it's such an important part now, I feel, of the future of recruitment for our client base, for sure, because I don't think we work with commodity providers. Well, we don't. So we need to be building stronger and better and more relationships. And that's the point of next week's show. So please do come along to that if you're interested.
Very much looking forward to it. It's going to be a really practical show as well, which I'm very much looking forward to. Okay, so Charlie, people who are watching this are thinking to themselves, I want to emulate what you've done. I want to emulate that kind of virtual element. I really want to be able to run my business from, let's say, Italy. Let's go different. Let's not go Spain. Let's go Italy.
What about Wales, Kirsty? What about Wales?
Wales has a lot of rain, probably not what Charlie's after. So if people would say this to you, what would your top tip be to those people?
A top tip would be that you need to build a virtual team that ultimately treat them like they're their own employees, basically, that they're in your business. Trust them, empower them, give them the freedom, the flexibility, the ownership, like they were sat in your business permanently.
I think that's really important, actually. I'm glad you said that. We were talking about this off air when we were trying to figure out what he was going to say. And I think quite often people who do outsource, whether that's far shoring, near shoring, or long shoring, then I think it's just a them in a sense. And although people say it isn't, but there is differences. And what you've done, Charlie, and I know because I do know some of these people, is you wouldn't know that they weren't permanent. You wouldn't. And that's the way in which they are with you, and the way in which they relate to you, even though some of them play golf and beat me. I think that they're good people despite that, but they are. And I think that's a really important thing. Also, can I just show this, if you don't mind, from Dave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's encouraging.
I'm not sure what Dave thinks about that statement. I'm not sure what he thinks that statement is. Just saying, but
it's definitely a statement. But unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time, and we've got a comment here that I want to share from Liz, where she said, it's a really fascinating discussion. Thanks for sharing so generously, Charlie. And that is definitely something.
You're welcome, Liz.
Mike and I want to say to you as well, Charlie, you've been so honest. You shared some really helpful, practical things as well. So I really want to thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Great to catch up with you both as ever.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on. As Liz said, being so generous and so open. And I knew this would be a great show. Lots of detail. In fact, you've run this show, Charlie, like you run your networking. You just give without thought of getting back. So really appreciate that. By the way, if anybody wants to connect with Charlie for any reason, then he's on LinkedIn. Charles Magill on LinkedIn, as we pointed out.
Yeah, Charles on LinkedIn.
Not Charlie. Charlie
Not
Magill.
possible, Charlie.
Is he used car salesman or something? I don't know. But whatever. Charles Magill is who you're looking for. So I'm sure he'd be there and answer any questions you might have. Okay.
And I want to thank you. And I want to thank you very much to our audience for watching today, as well for commenting. We've had far-flung people all the way from Buckingham and Gloucestershire. Sierra Leone, I think, is still the furthest away. So thank you very much to you. And of course, Mike, thank you. Even though you are wearing that shirt, thank you very much for being here as well.
Because I'm wearing this shirt. What's wrong with you?
Yes. Okay. And we'll see you guys.
See you in a couple of weeks, guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks again, Charlie. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.